Thank the four Star Wars. I almost said Star Wars. Sorry, Star Wars Newsnet Live has arrived. What a start to the evening! And almost, I'll take the image. I'll just take the words off this thumbnail. That's a wrap. We're done. Like, I'm over. It's over. That was terrible. There's no coming back from that, of course. But here we go. Ahsoka season 2 finishing up filming tomorrow. Principal photography will be ending reportedly. Tom is here to join me this evening. My name is Tyler. This is Star Wars Newsnet Live, which means it's Thursday night, which means Friday's tomorrow. We're living the good life. Tom, what are the vibes? Give me a vibe check right now.
Feeling good. Like you said, thank God it's Thursday, and tomorrow's Friday, so it's just a couple hours away.
It's actually like exhausting. So I was like, I posted a TikTok like a few minutes ago, and normally I like put some effort into my rants, and this one was just a like, one of those, because I was sitting there. I was so tired from class this evening, because I told you I just got back like a few minutes ago, and I was like, I should probably post something for the evening. And it was mostly like, what is the first thing that gets me excited about Star Wars when like it pops in my head? And I didn't even get excited. I thought, man, we haven't heard from Rey in so long. And I was like, oh my goodness, I just really want something Rey related, like a book. And then I started going, but the movie. Anyway, I don't know. How do you feel about that? You feel like that way, Tom, sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the longer we go without hearing any information about the upcoming movie, the more nervous I get that it's not going to happen. So, and it's weird with Starfighter, just a couple of years, less than 2 years away, and we're going to be in that era where Rey is actually probably starting to build her Jedi Academy. But so I don't know. There are rumors that possibly she might be part of this movie, but I don't know if any of that is true. I don't know. It depends on where Lucasfilm, they've been very guarded with, I guess, what they want to talk about with that era. So it remains to be seen if she will be part of the movie. It looks like you have a fan club here already.
Some of the former students are live in the chat this evening. So you remember how I think it was last week, or no, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was telling you about how, I was having like one of those down weeks, and then I had a few former students like reach out to see like, what was up, and asking if they could come for a school visit, right? I was telling you about that on the show. And so these are some of the students that were doing that. I told you so. Yeah, so made my week last week to get those emails, and then yesterday they popped in at the end of the day. And it was like kind of like one of those, oh man, it's a tough end of the day, and then you get some of your former students there, and hearing that they're doing well and thriving and all the things. It was really great. So always love to, anytime as a teacher you hear from your former students, makes your whole world feel a little bit brighter, especially when it's for the good reasons, right? It's the good reasons. Right. Not for things not for the bad reasons. Like, that's obviously which happens, but you want the good things. And so it was yeah, all the things. But so there's like the race stuff you mentioned there, but we have some actual Star Wars news this week, and I'm really excited about all of it. Like the vibes around Star Wars have been great. We've had trailers, we have positive news to talk about. So Ahsoka season 2 is wrapping up, filming tomorrow, like we said. So we're going to kind of dive into like a timeline for when we might see some more like images, maybe from the sets, some stuff from the show. We're going to do a little bit of a vibe check for Ahsoka season 2, because it's been, a couple months as we talked about it. And then I figured we would also like dive into just the Bryce Dallas Howard Star Wars discussion in general, because she's directing, like she was at a con. Was it like Los Angeles Comic-Con or something like that, where she confirmed, the previous reporting that she was in part of and directed 2 episodes of the Mandalorian, of Ahsoka season 2, and hyped it up a little bit. But there's also like kind of this broader Bryce Dallas Howard Star Wars conversation I would love to have, because she's dipped her toes in so many different projects now, and there's something to be said about that. So I would enjoy that. But first, it's a couple weeks old now when what we're about to talk about happened, but I still think it's worth having discussion because so much happened where honestly we didn't even get to it. But John Boyega had an interview or like he was at a panel or something recently. He was talking about Star Wars, and the image didn't turn out the way I wanted, but it's whatever. But I picked this one specifically because, and I'll leave it up there. I don't care. He basically talked about all the things he would have done differently if he was like in charge of the sequel trilogy. We're going to respect the lore. The trio is going to get better send-offs. I'm going to kill everyone. Like all of these grand statements without saying anything. It was almost like I'm going to check the list of points I'm going to hit that are going to get fans really excited. But I want to like throw it to you real quick and say, like, what did you get from John Boyega speaking out? Because he's consistently spoken out about Star Wars different times and just feels like his experience with it wasn't the best for some very obvious reasons, which we could touch on as well. But I was just curious what, in general, the overall takeaway you had was from, some of his comments that he made.
I had a couple of thoughts on it. So, I feel like who hasn't among us as fans, kind of had our own headcanon about what we would have done or changed or done this. It gets to be a slippery
Right.
slope because it's so easy to speculate and throw something, insert something in there, and that would have made it awesome. And really,
Right.
when you think about it, it's more than just one little scene or one kind of thing. Respecting the lore is so ambiguous, So
what does that mean?
Yeah,
Like, I'm gonna respect the lore. Like they to imply they didn't necessarily respect the like. What does that mean?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of look. I don't disagree with everything he said. There are some things I'm like, oh, he makes a point there, but it's kind of a slippery slope because so many times when there are fan theories or fan,
Right.
Canon and things that like, oh, this would have been awesome, but when you really think it through, like when they
Right.
released that supposed script, I guess it was confirmed that it was from who was supposed to direct
Was it
episode
the Gareth Edwards script?
No, why is his name escaping me now? Who directed Jurassic World? Who's supposed to do 9, and then they got J.J. Abrams back.
Oh, it wasn't Gareth. The Gareth Edwards did Rogue One.
Rogue One, yeah.
What do I say? Oh, it was. Oh my goodness.
Help us out in the comments.
Oh my god.
It's gonna come to me. But anyway, everyone saw the script and were losing their minds and said this would have been 1,000 times better. And you really don't know how. First of all, I read it and I was like, well, this is cool and that's cool, but you never know how these things are going to play out, what the performances are going to be, and how they're going to translate to the screen. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that impressed. So I feel like
Toro or something. Terrio.
Yes. No, you're thinking of
No, I'm wrong again.
Yeah, you are. He wrote episode 9. Why do I have to look it up? Episode 9.
Script.
What happens when you get
Trevorrow.
Thank you, Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, Colin Trevorrow. The Duel of the Fates one.
When episode 1 came out, I was 5 when the original trilogy began. And when episode 1 came out, I was in my late 20s. So you had different expectations. So episode 1 was really not what I expected. And I remember having a heated discussion. Mm-hmm. A friend and I were kind of defending it to some friends that were really not happy with the movie.
Fighting the good fight as always, Tom.
Yeah, as always, even though I had my issues. But one of my friends said something really well. He said, you could have changed everything. You could have done something. You could have done it so many different ways. If you get caught up with that and not what we got, it becomes just an exercise in frustration. So
think about every single thing that's ever been made in the history of the universe. And you can sit back and be like, well, probably would have done this thing a little differently. It would have been a little better. Yeah. Okay. Well, you're not a creative in charge of a project that's having to make all of these decisions as you're going. It's so much easier to poke holes at something and
That's
do that. You know, it's like when you're watching. It's like in sports. Like I can't believe the coach like called that play at that time. Okay. Well, he had 20 seconds to call that play, and they're going through all of this. Imagine someone being handed the reins and just Joe Blow off the street that made his 45-minute rant on YouTube about how much the sequel trilogy sucks. All right, here you go, Joe. Write us the movie.
right.
How's it turn out? Probably like pretty damn bad. That's probably how it turns out.
Exactly.
So it blows my mind when sometimes we get things. So, but here's the thing with John Boyega. And he keeps talking Star Wars is like, I don't, it makes it seem like this man's not ever coming back to Star Wars. But when you think about the journey that he had, I mean, I can't imagine being John Boyega, being so excited to be in the Star Wars, have be one of the most passionate people probably that's ever come into this, sphere, into this creative, universe. And to have immediate backlash presented to you just because of your race, and being a stormtrooper. Like that was an immediate issue that happened in Star Wars, over fan discourse. And like that was in many ways his first reception to Star Wars. And I'm sorry, I am sure that no amount of, fan panel, celebration, fan, praise to him is probably undoes like that could none of that can really undo some of the pain that probably was immediately happening. And then of course I would assume probably thought he was going to turn into this Jedi with the Force and do all of these things, for him to pretty much get pushed to the back burner in the final movie. Because people will scream at me over The Last Jedi for Finn all the time. And I'm like, you're upset about The Last Jedi for Finn's character. Like, you should be pissed off at The Rise of Skywalker for Finn's character. That's the movie that doesn't do anything for him outside of a couple of random side, allusions to his ability to use the Force now. Like, or at least, he's Force sensitive, right? And so, I totally get where John Boyega is coming from with this. But when I hear statements like this, and these are the ones that frustrate me because they're the ones that you see on YouTube all the time, or the rage baiters and the rage click, people on social media. They're like, they're not respecting the lore with this. But what does that really mean? Can you actually define that in a way that makes sense outside of telling me the Ki-Adi-Mundi's age was different on a 1998 trading card or something like that? You know what I mean? Or when they say, well, they just have never really incorporated anything from the Old Republic. Okay, what story from the Old Republic are you wanting them to incorporate? And then tell me if you're actually going to appreciate them for incorporating that story instead of making another 45-minute video about how they've disrespected the Old Republic after they bring that into the fold. So a lot of these things I would have had better endings for this. Okay, these are like all the checkpoints of people that are really upset. And you hit it perfectly when you said the more time we spend talking about what we didn't have or what we should have done or what would have been better here, the less time we spend being happy people on this earth. And two, the less time like we spend in productive conversation, because we could go through the whole list of decisions that probably should have been different, or maybe some creative things that should have changed. But you can have constructive criticism, constructive conversations about Star Wars while acknowledging the flaws within it, without it just turning into this whole ambiguous, like he said, like this ambiguous net that anything can get caught up in, but you're never able to take anything, constructive, out. It's like going fishing and you got the giant net going in the ocean. You're going to get a lot of stuff. And suddenly it's like you went into the pollution city and you just got a bunch of plastic bottles you have nothing to do with. Like there's no fish in there that you can do anything with. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at with a lot of it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing too, that again, we saw the quotes. We didn't know the tone of how it was said. I don't know if there's a video out there of it. but he could have been joking. He could have been playing around with some people that were just bringing it up. So, and maybe just the thing that I find,
Mhm.
I think that frustrates me a little bit is I really want him to come back to Star Wars. I think that his work and his story is unfinished.
Yeah.
And they could the Ray, movie trilogy, whatever it is going to be, is a perfect opportunity for him to do the things and fulfill that promise of that character. And I don't know, because his relationship with Star Wars just seems to get more
Mhm.
complicated,
Yeah.
as time goes by. And I know it always has been, really, since the beginning. But
Yeah.
I feel like one thing that you could say is that it is top of mind for him. It's like he's very passionate about it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where that's going to go, but I would be very disappointed if he didn't
Mhm.
come back and reprise his
Yeah.
character.
I still think there's a chance, someday. Like I just it really comes down to, I think you'd have to have the big brass sit down, have a conversation with him, and you bring him the story. Here is your character, like, and see, like, let him have not necessarily ownership of what happens to Finn, but invite him into that process a little bit too. And, like, not that we should just be letting all actors pick their, arcs for it, but sit down and be like, hey, this is the direction that we see for your character. Is that something that you would want to come back for? And if not, like, are there ways that we can, compromise here to bring you, like, we want to try to find a way for you to fit into the story, because it's very easy for Finn to fit into the story of the future of Star Wars. Like, it's very easy, it writes itself. Like, a galaxy is in need of repair, a galaxy is in need of, unifying again. They've briefly come together to defeat this force, but then what happens next? Well, that's a perfect role for the Jedi to step in and help and be these peacekeepers and be these individuals. Finn is someone who, is the from the former force first order stormtrooper to the general of the resistance to now possible Jedi in the galaxy. Like, that's just a story that writes itself, and the necessity for him in that universe. So I hope that maybe that could happen someday. But I did see a funny meme of, if John Boyega keeps talking like this, and it said, it's like episode 10, the force continues, and it was like, so Finn died randomly, and Rey is now struggling with the loss of Ben and her friend and rebuilding Jedi Order, and things are hard.
Yeah.
It's like, it said, like, if John Boyega keeps talking at these things. But again, he's probably asked this with no very little to no time to really prepare for, these questions necessarily. So
Being on it,
yeah.
I don't really know the tone. It's been a very complex relationship,
Mhm.
more so than I'm trying to think of anyone else in the sequel trilogy that is, Daisy has had some issue, but she seemed
Mhm.
she doesn't really talk much about it, I guess. Uh,
Well,
and
Daisy definitely has had issues with Star Wars and some things that have gone on. But again, she's very much like open. She wants to come back to Star Wars and is
right,
very excited and publicly, I mean, and
probably
I
sounds
just feel bad for her that she walked on stage, welcome back, like, to Celebration, and now she's like, well, maybe never see her again. Even with Mando and Grogu going and Starfighter in production, it still reminds me that, like, Lucasfilm was still somewhat of a mess, and we're hoping the mess continues to get cleaned up slowly but surely.
yes.
Anything else before we move on to some Ahsoka season 2 talk, Tom?
No, let's get to the next story. I think we've said
Y-
enough.
Right. So here we go. Ahsoka season 2 is done filming tomorrow, Friday, September, or wait, no, last Friday, September like 26th, I guess, was
Yes.
when Ahsoka, I think I misspoke earlier. Friday, September 26th was when Ahsoka season 2 wrapped filming. So we're done. We're in the post-production process now. So my guess is that this is going to come out next fall around right now. Like, I think that, late September, early October is probably like when this is going to come out. Maybe like a uh two episode premiere sort of thing again. And the whole like 2-episode premiere followed by maybe a 2-episode finale, or just the week by week release. So we're looking at like kind of like late September, early October, which means we're not going to see a trailer for several months, probably not until next summer. There's a chance maybe they'll drop something right after the Mandalorian and Grogu, something like that. Like the movie comes out and like, all right, hey, guess what's coming out in the fall? I would love if they could adapt, some sort of special look at Ahsoka season 2 with the Mandalorian movie, but because it's a show and streaming, I doubt they would like ever do that. But I think that would be a really fun way to get people invested in Ahsoka season 2. But we're like what 8 months removed at least from our first trailer, maybe probably closer to like 9 months removed.
Right.
But I do think that maybe this just a Starfighter thing. But them showing us a look at Starfighter, I'm wondering if here, in the next few months, we might get a couple of stories coming out about this as we get into the new year, and some production photos, because they had the ones with Ezra where they showed like at it was like Celebration or whatever, some of the early looks at that. So I'm wondering if there might be a few things like that coming out over the next few months here or there, just to remind us that this is like a work in progress, to remind us that this is on the way. And I'm telling you what, Tom, that I'm just getting so stoked for 2026. I think it's just going to be a great year. I'm riding high off of Andor still and the vibes, and then like the Emmys kind of brought that back. And
Right.
I'm doing a lot of Star Wars books right now, and the fact that we just got that trailer, we got Visions coming out soon, we got Mandalorian and Grogu movie, the Mall show probably coming out early, in the year. I'm thinking Ahsoka season 2. I just think we're in a really good place. I really think we are. And I think we're going to have a different 2026's tone is going to be entirely different from 25's with Andor. But I think it's a good tone, change before we get into Starfighter. But what are you looking forward to right now? Like, where's your headspace as we, hear that Ahsoka has done, like they're done filming this show that's supposed to be pretty monumental.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I know we're going to get into it in the show, but also to hear Bryce Dallas Howard's enthusiasm for the show and where
Right.
season 2 is going to take us. Some of the things she mentioned were really exciting. So yeah, I'm very excited. I'm glad that they recast Balin Skull, because to me, he was probably the most intriguing character of the series so far.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing his arc and how is it Rory
Wherever
McCann?
can.
Yeah,
The
how he
Hound.
portrays him. Yes, how he portrays him in this series. And yeah, I mean, I'm really, even though I had some issues with season 1, I really want to see these characters again. I want to see Shin again, and Ahsoka, obviously, and just the rest of the Rebels bunch, and hopefully Zeb will join them at some point.
Well, he's in the show. He is confirmed to be in the show.
Oh, that's right. That's right. They did
Mhm.
mention that at
I
Celebration.
mean, there was like Zeb's gonna be 2026 is gonna be the year of Garazeb Aurelios. He made his brief appearance in the Mandalorian season 3, but he's gonna be having his own hallway scene in a Star Wars movie, and then he's gonna go into Ahsoka season 2 and do his thing. So I'm excited about all of that. It's like the year of the year of the Lasat is what 2026 is gonna be known by. But I mean, you have him, you have Admiral Akbar that's gonna be in this. He's sparring with Admiral Thrawn in terms of probably some naval combat sort of stuff. And I'm looking forward to
That
seeing
trailer is
some of that. But this is they just finished filming. It's a long, filming session for this show. And I'm curious, do you know, I'm putting you on the spot here. And like, do you know that like did they talk about like sets that they built for this, or was this mostly like 100% the volume, kind of like Mandalorian was? I'm not 100% sure on this. I know there's going to be a lot of volume with Ahsoka. Like I do know this, but I also know there are this is the only live action project coming out on Disney Plus for a while. So I didn't know if maybe they did splurge and build some like sets, a few more sets for this than maybe they have in the past.
I think from what I've heard so far, it's going to be a mixture of the volume and practical locations. So I'm excited for that. I felt like that made so much difference in Andor with the look and the
Mhm.
feel of it. So, but obviously, in that case, they had a huge budget for Andor. So, I don't know, I don't know how. And I know Tony Gilroy talked a lot about when you mix both. I mean, both have their advantages and disadvantages, but when you use both, it can run up the costs because you're kind
Right.
of, uh, you have to prepare. It's a different workflow
Right.
for uh,
Absolutely.
for that. But I think I did hear that they're going to be using both, which would be really nice.
Okay. All right. Well, and then the scale of this show is something I'm really interested to see because according to Filoni, this is like all out war for half the season. And
Yeah,
I'm curious how we're going to get to that point because Thrawn just got to the galaxy. And if we're having all out war on one end, what does that mean for on the other end with everything else going on? With like Ahsoka in the other galaxy, like because that doesn't scream all out war, but what kind of maybe a different kind of war is going on over there? But this show, I am so curious about the Filoni movie because I feel like this is still gonna happen. But Ahsoka season 2, the more I think about it, if Filoni's movie didn't happen, then maybe that's why there's this giant all-out war in Ahsoka season 2, and this is incredibly wide-scaled conflict that's going on because maybe that movie is getting pushed back to the side because of him stepping into this new role and Starfighter going into production and being coming out in 2027, which means that Filoni's movie, at the very earliest would be going on in 2029 probably because I have a hard time thinking they do 3 straight years of Star Wars movies.
right.
Maybe they do, but 2029, that's a long time to be removed from all of this Mando stuff. I mean, when you think about that, I mean, we'd be looking at like 12 years or whatever, or 10 years of the Mandoverse at that point. And that's a long time to keep people invested in something that was largely built on the TV screen.
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's the older I get, I'm like, I hope I'm here for all of it because it seems like they have plans to keep going. With some of the things they've announced already, whether or not those will happen, we'll see. I
Right.
know people are speculating. That's one thing we didn't. I don't know if we were set to bring up, but about James Mangold and his
Mhm.
deal. So that's up in the air as well. But it's interesting. It sounds like they have a lot of content that'll hold them through the rest of this decade and beyond. So interesting.
It's really fascinating to see where the show and how it's received because I thought Ahsoka season 1 was solid and I think it was well received by Star Wars fans, but I don't know if it was the reception they were hoping for. I think they were like hoping that it would kind of get to the point of where Mando was, like close to like that Mandalorian level of acclaim and excitement because of the fact there's lightsabers, there's the Force, it's a fan favorite character already, and now you're bringing in, obviously they have the other galaxy aspect. You have Thrawn. There's Legends things that are being tied in. Like there's so many different aspects of Star Wars that are being tied in. I think that they were satisfied, obviously, or they wouldn't have just been like, all right, it's time for season 2, right? Like we know that. But I don't know if it was the slam dunk they were hoping for with that show. And so I'm really curious to see with season 2, like, are they able to not maintain what they did from season 1, but is this a show that's going to increase in its following moving forward? Sometimes you start off and it decreases versus like with a show like Andor, that thing has gained momentum since it first came out
And
and
got
the audience
fan base.
it got larger. And so I'm wondering, is Ahsoka the type of show that is capable of doing that? And I don't know if we know the answer to that question yet. Right now, I lean towards no. But again, it's quite possible that if they really push Hayden, and I think Ewan's going to be in this, they push them in some of that, some of that marketing for this show. they really deliver on some of the early, that's what I'm saying. Put some of those images out there now, like get some of the talk about it now. Let people go revisit that show. Let people, start talking about it again here and there. Just every month, maybe you drop a little snippet of, something behind the scenes, a couple pictures here,
Right.
some promo photos there. And then when you really got to hit that trailer, and if they can do a decent enough job, maybe it can build enough. I'm a little worried, but hey, All Out War on, Star Wars, I'm a little bit skeptical, but I'm really excited.
Right. Because I don't know what it sounds like, from like we were talking, I said it's basically two shows, because they
Right.
have what's happening in the core galaxy, they have what's happening in Peridia, and it sounds really epic what they're talking about. And I don't know what this, I have no really baseline of what the scope is going to be, or the look and feel of it, how they're going to pull it off, basically. So
Especially on TV, we've never had anything like that on TV for live action. Because we've had like Clone Wars has massive scale conflicts and battles, of course. But again, animation very different than live action. So like when I think of these like all full scale battle conflict type things for Star Wars, and my mind's going to, Rogue One, when you have, the battle on land at Scarif, and then you have like the space battle that's going on,
right,
above the planet. I go to, the Phantom Menace, when you have all these different, things going on here. And so when I think about how that would work for TV, I'm like, it would feel and look entirely differently than it would on the big screen. And then is this, one big battle that is taking place like over a long period of time, or is this show going to take place over a stretch of time, and we're going to have, multiple like skirmishes that lead to, one final confrontation in the end? Like that's where I'm really curious to see, when Filoni says half of this is just one big battle, is he saying like one singular conflict, and this show takes place, maybe half the show takes place in, the course of a day or two, because it's, a battle, there's a siege? Or is he saying one big battle in the sense of there's this like large battle, like, because you could say like the war, the battle between, the Empire and the Rebellion, is that what he's talking about? And we don't really know the answers to those questions yet. So that's more I'm excited to learn as we get more of a synopsis of the season.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, I kind of miss these characters, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I was saying, will it go beyond? Will it pull in the people that are the casual fans that don't really watch the Disney
Right.
Plus shows,
Mhm.
or that have tuned out after a while of maybe oversaturation or disinterest, or maybe not loving the quality of what we've
Right.
gotten so far?
Mhm.
I feel like the movies, if there's a movie, people are going to go see it. If there's a Star Wars movie in the theaters, people are going to say, "Hey,
Right.
there's a Star Wars movie playing. I'm going to go see that." But if it's something on Disney Plus, I don't think it has the draw. Like when I remember when The Mandalorian was coming out in 2019, when Disney Plus just
Mhm.
launched, it was such a new thing. It's like, wow, Star Wars, on the small screen. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And then
And
Mando hits for every person. Like you don't have to be a Star Wars fan to watch The Mandalorian, Like there's people I know that had never seen Star Wars, and they watched The Mandalorian and they liked it. You
right,
know, Ahsoka's a show where the way that show goes, I'm not really sure someone who's just not like a diehard Star Wars fan is gonna sit there and
follow it.
gravitate towards it. I'm
Yeah.
I'm not saying they won't, but again, I don't know if that's pulling in people that are just scrolling on, Disney Plus, or trying to find something to watch and are like, let's try this, Ahsoka show out, versus The Mandalorian does have that appeal to just someone who loves a good sci-fi or fantasy type story.
There's a familiarity too with the look of The Mandalorian. Like, people kind of, Boba Fett's been in the pop culture for a long
Mhm.
time, so they see that helmet, and it's kind of reminiscent. If you weren't a fan of, or you don't even know about the animated shows, it may not
Mhm.
strike you, or I don't know.
Right.
It's interesting because,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know how all that works, like, as far as, how they're doing, the demographics and stuff on that, but
Right.
Yeah, it's a hard sell for them, I think. So
Mhm.
hopefully it'll get the right, push
I
for it
know
to yeah.
what we need to start a betting pool over what Admiral Akbar's first line is going to be not in the show, but when he discovers the night troopers that can are like the zombies, like when someone tells him about like what's he going to say whenever that happens, because they can't say it's a trap. They can't say that, of course, but it's what is what's the new meme? Like there is so much meme potential with Ahsoka season 2 between Hayden coming back, between Admiral Akbar making an appearance with Thrawn and the Mortis gods maybe playing a role. Like there's a lot of meme potential here, and I'm excited to see it through.
Yeah, yeah. It's gonna be pretty I mean, like you said, Filoni likes to dip into the toy box and, kind of is
Hmm.
reminiscent. That's why I love watching his stuff because there's so much in there for, like, the diehard fans that,
Yeah,
like, you know
100%.
so much enjoyment with seeing some of these things come back to life. So,
I'm I'm really curious to see what the writing is like. I wonder because Filoni has been he's an interesting cat to me because on one hand, we have Star Wars Rebels and lots of Clone Wars where I'm like, he can just he knows how to just perfectly pace a 25-minute episode and just nail it. And he does it over a span of like 25 episode seasons or 16, 18 episode seasons, right? And then some of the stuff he wrote for Ahsoka, he wrote Ahsoka, and it felt like you didn't have enough like to work with. Like you tried to do too much here, and you maybe could have used another pair of eyes on this. It's interesting that
right,
how I think live action does in these limited episodes of 8. It requires a different style and a different type of writing to go with it, and I've been a little disappointed, like, with his live action work so far, with some of the writing that we've seen from him, and I think he's growing. He's growing as a live action director. Like I think that when you look at some of the products, like from like the first episode he ever did, like of The Mandalorian, to his work on like Ahsoka season 2 or season 1, for instance, years later, it's like okay, there's growth there.
mhm,
But I'm the writing wise, I always left something to be desired for me in Ahsoka, and that was something that surprised me because I thought that if there was one thing that I was gonna feel really good about was like the writing there, because I enjoyed Rebels so much. But it felt like the jump that felt like sometimes that animation, dialogue that can work
right,
for those shows was seeping into Ahsoka, and then we kind of got like lost track of where we're going at times. And I'm hoping that maybe they got a few more voices in the room to assist with the writing and some of that for Ahsoka season 2. But part of me goes, well, Filoni's only rising up the food chain at Lucasfilm. If anything, he's like, I got this, right?
well, if I was John Boyega, I would say, "Hold Dan Gilroy up."
Or no, here's what they got to do for Ahsoka season. They got to respect the lore. they, they gotta make sure we get the trio back together. Han, or not Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka. Create some really good moments for the three of them. You're gonna include Mortis God lore, honor the Clone Wars and Rebels. All of the
Well,
things.
I have speaking of getting the original 3 back together, I mean, they're going to, at some point, have to address the big 3 in this era, right?
Mhm.
It's kinda crucial. I know in, Mandalorian season was that Mandalorian season 3, or was that was Mandalorian season 3 when they had Mon Mothma and they said they sent C-3PO in?
No,
That
no,
was
it's Ahsoka. It's Ahsoka.
that was Ahsoka? Okay, sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they mentioned Leia and everything, but
Yeah.
they're going to have to, and this is my prediction, maybe my hot take, but I think they're going to have to bring them back somehow, you
Hmm.
know? So somehow the big 3 return.
In the movie, I think if Filoni gets his movie, I think that's where you would see it. And I am telling you right now, Tom,
The
I
movie
am
makes the most sense.
I'm dreading. dreading it. I'm dreading
Having them come back.
seeing CGI. No, I'm dreading seeing CGI Leia on my screen. I'm dreading seeing CGI Luke on my screen. I'm dreading seeing CGI Han Solo on my screen with the face,
If you
swap
squint, it's not
thing.
bad.
What?
If you squint, it's not that bad.
It's
No,
well, it's not even that it's
gotten a lot.
visually, like, it looks good. Like, I'm not saying
Yeah,
it doesn't look good. It's just so lifeless to me. And I
yeah,
know it's not them. Like, I know it's
you
not.
know it's not them. So
And
your brain is saying that. So I'm one that's pushing for recasting because especially it will give them a chance to include those characters more.
mhm,
So I'm fine with
they're
recast.
gonna do it. The reason, so I don't wanna see them at all in the we'll just go on I'll just share my
Yeah.
tangent here. I don't wanna see them at all in the Filoni movie. Like, I don't even wanna see them. I
Mm,
I I want the Falcon in a space battle. Give me the Falcon, and you can have audio maybe coming in from Han, Leia, and Luke. And I'm okay
okay.
with like some of that voice stuff that they can do, like they did for like Vader in
Right.
like Kenobi with James Earl Jones' voice, right? Maybe if there's they had some agreements in place to do that, or you get them in to voice some things, or you take something, or you can figure out something like, oh, that's or General Solo has arrived, or Senator Organa's with General Solo. Like, anyway, do something. Just have the Falcon. They're present in some sort of space battle. You can have some voice, and it's like, I know they're there. They are taking an active role in leadership, and then the characters that we've grown up with the Manoverse are on command. Like Luke, have the X-wing come in, do whatever. You can have him fighting. I don't want to see them because I know it's just going to be the CGI. Just have references to them. They can be in their ships. They can do other things. They can be making critical decisions. But it's almost like I don't need to see them. I know what they're doing. I know they're prominent. Don't taint taint it for me with the face technology where it's CGI'd in and it's gonna feel awkward. I just don't want that. Like, I'd rather just let my imagination just imagine, like, tell me what's happening. But I know that to me, it's their damned if they do, damned if they don't. Like, if they don't include them,
Yeah,
it's like it's the big three. Like, how do you not have them at all? And then if they are in there, because they're gonna do the tech, the technology thing. I forget what it's called, but and then people are gonna be like, oh, they're just CGIing these people, and it's not there. Or if they recast, it's like that's not Luke Skywalker. It's just I feel like that's the way it's all gonna go. So I'm like, yeah, trying to
they
figure
have
out the best.
somehow it has to be addressed, and I like your idea of having it like if you have the Falcon there and or Chewbacca and like I think they can find ways to do it creatively that
Yeah,
doesn't throw us into the uncanny valley. But like I
it is
said, I
tough.
was watching Luke in Book of Boba Fett was pretty good.
It was. Again, it's just
But it's like you're just you can tell if there's any flaw in it because it's not him.
and it
Uh,
to me it's a principle thing almost. Like, I don't want, and just in general, like someday, like I don't want the. There was did you see the thing? I was like discussing film, put it out there. I put it in like a Discord movie chat for Star Wars News Net, and it was like the AI, this like AI created actress, quote unquote actress. And
yes,
there's like people like, and I'm like, is that where we're going? Like, to me, that's like, these are the first steps. Is they're going to start with these characters that have been around for a long time, and they're going to, put the faces of people that we've seen before and like create this thing. Like, what if, like, I'm just imagining this universe where DC creates some sort of multiverse of Superman, and you have like Christopher Reeve Superman in there, and they just do this whole like that's how it starts to me. And then we become a content, like we're just all about consuming content rather than caring about like the art, and the artistry behind it. Like, if
right.
it just becomes like, oh, we're gonna, because then I hate it when people are like, oh, we could just have a Luke series now with this technology. And I'm like, but But what does that do for us? Like, what is that providing us other than, all right, we have the technology to just push this content out here. But if any character now is suddenly like this, like to me, there has to be a line somewhere that's like drawn. And I'm okay with some of it. Like when Rogue One, when they did like Tarkin, like I'm like, okay, I'm okay with that. I didn't need the Leia one. That's the one I didn't like that. But in pieces, it's okay. Like in Mandalorian, when they did that for a moment. But what I don't want to happen is it become like this mainstay, main character energy.
Right. I think, we really haven't seen it since then. So I guess since Book of Boba Fett. So they probably won't. I think it's just strange if they're not meant or part of this story.
I agree.
Now. Depending on, where Luke is in this timeline, he could be, off on his own, his own adventures with what he was doing. The same with the others, except Leia, really. She's kind of the one that's kind of they're holding things together. So I don't know. I didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole with this.
No, it's fine.
It's interesting because it's probably going to need to be addressed somehow. So I think we went over probably all the ways that they could tackle it.
You know what I would love to see if it was brief, though, if they did have if Luke and everything, is if we saw Luke in his temple, and he's building that temple, and we had they hired some kids, like a 7-year-old Ben Solo.
I think we're gonna see that at some point. I'll be honest.
That would be fun.
And
that would be fun. Gosh, now I'm on the whole. Now I'm just so upset now that it's freaking dead. Like, what were they doing, Tom?
I know. I said, all right. I'll give my John Boyega. We're gonna use that from now on. I wish he survived and he just went to the planet that Luke was on Acto, and just
Acto,
himself, and then waiting.
Oh my gosh,
for the next
thing that
happened.
He killed him off. Like they'd and then Leia sacrificed. Her son didn't even survive. Oh my gosh, it just kills me. And there's the story potential for Ben Solo. Oh my gosh, Tom, it's breaking me tonight.
I feel like I feel like his backstory would be very interesting, and I don't like what they've done with any of the comics yet. Although
have you read Legacy of Vader? I'm only 2 issues in. I need to keep reading.
Some of it seems pretty interesting. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I'm only 2 in. I need to dive. I'm a little behind. I need to dive back in and keep going because I bought them all.
But before that, I feel like about the Knights of Ren. I feel like that was such an intriguing story thread, and it just kind of fell off the table.
Oh, they're so boring. I'm so bored about the Knights of Ren, and I hate being bored with the Knights of Ren. You know what I mean? They should be interesting.
Force Awakens, it was like, who the heck are those?
Who are the Knights of Ren?
This is going to be amazing.
But they kind of suck. A bunch of wannabes is what they are. Yeah, but oh man, Ben Solo, my glorious. We're gonna do the John Boyega pod where we go. What are all the ways that we can bring Ben Solo back without ruining the lore of Star Wars? How can we bring him back without ruining the lore and respecting the lore? That's what we're going to do. We're going to have an episode on that. It's going to be the Ben Solo pod.
World between worlds, baby.
The world between worlds. All right. Before we go, let's talk about someone who is 100% present in the Star Wars universe right now, and that is Bryce Dallas Howard, who has, directed many episodes of The Mandalorian. She's directing multiple episodes of Ahsoka season 2 that just got done. She has directed episodes of Skeleton Crew. She is so involved in Star Wars, and I have genuinely loved every single time she's stepped up to the plate. It seems like she always delivers some of the best, episodes and the best content and the best creative vision in Star Wars TV. And I have no doubts that whatever episodes of hers on Ahsoka season 2 are, there's a good chance they're going to be my favorite ones. That she's just been that consistent and that good. But she had some comments at the comic convention that she was at this week, and I just want to get your overall thoughts on that. Bryce Dallas Howard in Star Wars as well. But then there's one thing I really want you to touch on, and that was she said that the show is very romantic, which I thought was very interesting, considered I feel like we have no like where we left off with no romantic stuff going on at all, other than like Sabine Ezra, but they're an opposite like possibility there, but they're in opposite galaxies. So take it away from there, Tom.
So I'll say, some people will say, well, she's supposed to pump up the show, right?
Right.
That's
Yes.
her job, to like kind of give good press to the show she's working on, but it's Bryce Dallas Howard, and I feel like she wears her heart on her sleeve. It's everything she does that she's done in the Disney Plus Star Wars world has been really amazing, and to see her that enthusiastic and saying that the show is amazing and really pumping it up, and she just seems like someone that is genuine, and that she would say that. So this makes me really excited. So I love her personality. I love, how she approaches all of the shows that she's done, and I love that her authenticity really shines forward. So when she says that it's great, I believe her. So I'm really excited. That's the one thing. And like you said, the other thing that caught my attention was the romance, because outside of Andor, with Cassian and Bix, we haven't had a lot of romance in Star Wars. Correct me if I'm wrong. I guess
like you're talking about like Disney Plus Star Wars.
Disney Plus, even in the sequel trilogy, there were hints at things here and there, but
yeah,
there wasn't.
I mean, you have Rebels, you have the Kanan Hera stuff.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
again is not, but
That's
no, I agree. It's been like the last big time like romance that we had in Star Wars was Anakin and Padme.
Right.
Been a long time.
So Ezra
On the
and
screen
would be, I guess, the obvious people that you would think maybe there's a spark there. I know a lot of fans. There's like a lot of fan fiction, I guess you could call it, around
right.
Bean and Shin, which is really funny if you follow some of those and the great thing about that is that the actresses that play both those roles really kind of, I think, know that people are saying that, so they kind
of feed into it a little bit. Yeah, they play it up,
liking each other's like Instagram reels and like commenting and putting hearts here and there. It's really funny to watch. So
I'd be down.
But, I don't know. Maybe Admiral Akbar has isn't his son in this?
Akbar is filling in for Kanan Jarrus now that he's gone. Akbar has stepped in, and he's helping raise young Jason Syndulla. It's kind of gross when I think about it.
It's interesting to see. I don't know what that means, but she said, I'm looking at her quote now. She said that I'm just going through it real quick. Did she say there was romance, or was it romantic?
She said it's very romantic, which can mean a lot of things.
It could mean a lot of things. It could mean the way it's shot, or some of the things that happen, or some of the things it could be platonic.
It could just be in the lives of the show. Like it's very like like she could have just been describing like the way it's shot, like the beauty of it, and it's almost romantic in the sense of how you feel as you're watching it. Like you're almost feeling that romance with the show itself, in a sense.
Right. So yeah, I mean, but again, coming from other people, I would be like, take it with a grain of salt. But coming from Bryce, it's almost like she's not going to lie to us.
Right. Because he was in these Jurassic movies, the recent Jurassic movies, a couple years ago, like Jurassic World Dominion. She was a star in that, and if I remember, was following that. I don't know if she was just going out of her way like to rave about it. Like she was like, I'm here, yeah, it's gonna be fun, like all these things. But like then when just looking, again, this is just anecdotally me based off of what I think I remember, right? It's like you said, she's very authentic, but the way she talks about this project or Star Wars in general, it just feels very different than how she talks about how I've seen her talk about other things. And so that's why I'm excited about what she's doing here. And if there's anyone that I feel like I would be 100% fine taking the reins of, so like Deborah Chow did a few episodes of Mando, and then like they kind of gave her full reins for like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like if there was anyone that they were to give, the reins over for a future Star Wars show or like a Star Wars movie, then and like that's already kind of in the sphere, it's her. Like it's 100% her. And I would that's kind of been a popular thing on socials, and I 100 I still stand by that too. Like I think that that's something that most fans would be like, yeah, I could get excited for that. So I can't wait for her 2 episodes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and Ahsoka season 2 is frankly, next fall. I'll be here before we know it. There's a lot of stuff to get us through then too.
Right. Looking forward to that.
Anything you want to add in the Star Wars world before we get out of here, Tom?
I think we covered most things. I don't know if you wanted to touch on the James Mangold story. I don't know if there's much.
Yeah, it's so murky with like his deal with Paramount and everything. It's so murky with that because it's I haven't, I'll be honest, I haven't spent enough time to like dive into the weeds of that. Like, does this prevent him from being able to do this or that? Like, what's his schedule like going to be like? What is there a new timeline for things? Like, I don't know. I think that we haven't heard, anything about it. So maybe no news in this instance is good news from that sense. But again, who knows at this point with Star Wars? I think that if you told me that his movie is going to come out in next after Starfighter, if you told me Taika Waititi's movie is going to come out next after Starfighter, if you told me the Rey movie is going to come out next after Starfighter, if you said Filoni's movie is going to, I would believe you on all of them. Like there is a way I would be like, okay, yeah, I could see that happening with all of them. Because remember, like the Sean Levy thing was whispered about for a long time. And then just about a few weeks before Celebration, like boom, it just exploded, right? Like it came out of nowhere. Like this is happening. This is a big deal. They're going to be a Celebration. And it happened so fast. And it's not any of the movies that they talked about on stage at Celebration. And so who knows what we're going to think. It's kind of funny how they had that big deal as, Celebration. And then we have like, we're going to be in our several years removed from that. And we'll have 2 Star Wars movies out, and neither one were the one that was talked about on that stage, which is ironic. It's okay though.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, that wraps us up for this Thursday. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Hit that like, subscribe button. Follow us on Star Wars News Net everywhere on socials. You can find me on TikTok at Star Wars Book Dude if you're interested. And we will see y'all next Thursday night, 10 o'clock Eastern time, for something Star Wars related. For life and life, remember, you're all the Republic.